For the second time in 4 months, the U.S. Navy sent one of its warships in territorial waters claimed by China. Chinese leaders are calling it a severe provocation and a violation of Chinese law. CCTV Sean Callebs is here with more on the story. Sean.
Susan, thanks very much. It has been an active week involving disputed waters off the Chinese mainland, including high-level diplomatic talks between the U.S. and China in an attempt to find a way forward in the region. But just 2 days after those discussions, another military maneuver by the U.S. It's the latest flare-up in tensions between the United States and China over disputed areas within the South China Sea. U.S. military leaders admit the U.S. Navy destroyer Curtis Wilbur sailed into waters that China claims, with the U.S. saying it was a challenge by claims by mainland China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. China is not taking the action lightly. A defense ministry spokesman called the move a deliberate provocation, adding the U.S. act severely violated Chinese law, sabotaged the peace, security, and the good order of the water, and undermined the region's peace and stability. In a sign of heightened awareness, the U.S. move prompted the PLA to activate a garrison on the island. A Pentagon spokesman doesn't deny the U.S. warship deliberately came within 12 miles of the Sea.CCTV Islands, but the U.S. doesn't recognize China's claim to the region, saying they are challenging what they label excessive attempts to restrict navigation in the South China Sea. On Thursday, the leader of Taiwan, Ma Ying-jeou, visited another disputed island in the South China Sea to reaffirm China's sovereignty over the area.
The Nansha Islands have been Chinese territory since ancient times. Chinese on both sides of the strait have a duty to safeguard what's been passed down from generations of Chinese people.
In Washington, leaders called the visit extremely unhelpful, saying it would do nothing to resolve the territorial disputes. And this past week, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was in Beijing, in part to try to diffuse tension over the South China Sea that has been building for months. But at the same time, back in the United States, U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter called China's buildup in the area a, quote, miscalculation. And he is vowing further U.S. military operations there, Susan. So you can see this is something that just keeps going on and on.
Tell us more about the issues at the root of this problem, though.
Yeah, it's interesting because China has been actively staking a claim in the region, saying it is theirs and it has been for generations. The islands, the area off the mainland, and China has been building some man-made islands, and in constructing an airstrip on one of those islands in question, recently landing a passenger plane on there to make sure that it was a viable airstrip. But the U.S. maintains it is open water, free for navigation, and that's the rub. And it has ignored China's demands that the United States notify China before sending vessels into the disputed area. Now, about the only thing, Susan, the two do agree on is that by the U.S. going in there, it continues to raise tensions in that area. And depending on what the U.S. Defense Secretary said, the fact they plan more activity in that area, perhaps we're going to be looking at this down the road.